My first question is to Mr. McLean. I certainly agree with your assessment of the culture and, as you described it, personal gain over the veterans. And if we're really going to create a system that is truly veteran-centric, then I think we could all agree that we need to hear from the veterans. And so my question is, are there any specific recommendations made by the VSOs at this time that you would actually endorse?
Ma'am, I am not familiar with all of the recommendations from the VSOs. I have not listened to all their testimony nor read their resolutions.
But in terms of, as you described, a great need for outside assessment of the organization before we begin to make any of the big changes that we need to make, you would include VSOs in analysis?
That's part of the voice of the vet. They're a huge stakeholder. There isn't any question about it.
Thank you. And Mr. Collard, I certainly agree. I think we all probably agree of your assessment that the IT system for scheduling is archaic. Are there systems out there that you would recommend?
Not a particular system, but just knowing that they're present and they're used. And if I could just extend upon an IT element or a pre-call or a post-call, what we're really talking about is not fundamentally the reimbursement around or the productivity that's impacted like a snow day for a no-show. What we're really talking about is that quality outcome again. So if a pre-call is made and we know the veteran shows up fully prepared for the procedure or the treatment, they know where to come, they know when to come, that's going to drive quality. The post-call efforts that are in place also, again, not just a unit of a box checked, but the empirical evidence on the private sector side that reduces readmissions, improves medication compliance rate. There was a study in the Annals of Internal Medicine about a year and a half ago that showed simply the proper education within the care setting and post-calls improve just the propensity to stop at Walgreens and CVS and fill the script. And now, again, private sector example, but I think we all have to eventually we're doing a really good job today talking about the what and the how, and we've always got to return to the why, and I think each of us have recognized the why of these conversations.
Thank you. Mr. Collard, again, I mean, from your vantage point, I mean, how do you think we can better instill integrity into the VA management? And, I mean, how do we instill, you know, starting yesterday, starting today, how do we begin to instill a sense of urgency within the Veterans Health Administration?
As with any organization, urgency begins at the top. Accountability begins at the top. What we have to be able to do is narrow the focus. The one big idea, again, I'd come back to Monday. This doesn't have to leave a committee and take on 50 things, but the one big idea that could create momentum and confidence in our veterans, provide clear expectations out of that sense of urgency, out of an assessment that could be done. Make sure that the training is adequate for those asked perhaps to do something new or do something differently. And then make sure that we just utilize methods of verification and validation like any other industry would do to ensure in real time that things are happening so that we don't find the firestorms that exist when either whistleblowers make a call or finally data reaches its peak.
Thank you. And I think in your testimony, you talked about, big change with proven outcome solutions, and that if the VA, the VA is unique, but we can't be terminal about its uniqueness, that we have to look to better outcomes. Mm-hmm. So is there anything about the VA medical system, I'm not quite sure how to ask this because I agree with your assessment, but that is unique, that we don't have another place to look for best practices?
I just think we have to get beyond that as the question that would be asked from internally. The single most improved hospital in the United States of America is Trinity Medical Center in Birmingham, Alabama. They're in a 40 to 50-year-old physical plant. They don't have any private rooms. They're all semi-private. They have a call light system with it. When it rings from the patient bed, it actually rings to the PBX operator of the hospital, who has to then ring the nurse's station. And yet they've decreased call light times in excess of 60 to 70% with the hand that's dealt them.